You are now listening to the Dual Position Podcast.
The boys are back to talk all things SuperCoach all season long.
Please welcome your hosts, Whisperer and Brew.
Well, Chrissy has come and gone. New Year's has come and gone. We are officially into 2022. That means SuperCoach is going to ramp up. And look, Brew and I have been planning what's coming up in the new year. We've got not one, not two, not four, but 3 podcasts a week between now and the end of February. We're going to cover everything from positions to teams to basically you name it to get you through the hard slog that is the NRL preseason. As I said, as always, joined by the wonderful Brew. Mate, how was the Chrissy and then how was the new year? Was Santa good to you?
Santa was very good to me. The Marvel nerd that I am was taken care of very much so. Happy New Year to all our followers and to yourself, Josh. Let me just say I'm glad that SuperCoach is back because COVID ruined my NFL dreams, knocked me out of multiple semi-finals, so I'm 100% focused now on SuperCoach.
Yeah, for anyone that didn't see, I participated in the NRL SuperCoach versus NRL Fantasy NFL sort of draft over the off-season. I guess some of the bigger creators from both sides of the fantasy landscape, we all took each other on, and Top Sport sponsored that one, and your boy took it out. So Top Sport kindly donated $2,000 to the Black Dog Institute, which was my charity of choice. They also gave me $2,000. I put $1,000 towards Black Dog as well. I also put $500 towards Beyond Blue, and kept $500 for myself just to top up the Christmas kitty. I got a Lynx deodorant pack, so I think I won Christmas. It came with 5 body sprays, so the missus must be telling me something. But we are here to talk SuperCoach, mate. We're here to talk the hookers, or I should say lack of hookers this year. It's looking pretty slim pickings, isn't it?
Yeah, there's not a great deal of depth, so we're going to focus on probably 8 to 10 guys today, the top half being what we would consider guns for the position, and then we'll go through some more mid-card options and maybe a few cheaper options or lack thereof this season.
As I said at the top of the show, 3 podcasts a week. Brew and I are putting ourselves through torture to get you guys the information that you need. As I said, in these positional podcasts, we're not really going to touch on the cheapies or the unknowns just yet because it is still so early in the preseason. But once more comes to light, we'll definitely be focusing on those guys specifically. But as Bruce said today, we'll just be touching on, I guess, the guys that you're going to see a lot of you in a lot of sides and a lot of Rate My Teams, and we'll give our sort of thoughts on them, our feedback, and we'll go from there. As I said, mate, we're touching hookers. You've done a lot of the research on this one, a lot of the heavy lifting for the hookers. So I'll let you kick off with, I guess, who you and I have ranked number 1 and who a lot of people have ranked number 1. And there's no arguments from me when it comes to Harry Grant.
No, look, he's the highest priced player for a reason. 74 average last season. I've broken down his stats a little bit for our viewers. So he has 37 in base. That's not the highest of the position. But when it comes to his attack, it's by far the highest of the position, and that is 40 per week. Last year, probably a downer for Smith was his minutes. Only 59 minutes was his average last season. When it comes to the 60-60 club, basically that means, scoring 60 plus. He was at 69%, which is a really good conversion rate, and obviously means that he's a very consistent player. A few little notes that I've got here. I believe Brandon Smith won't play hooker this year. I think he will move to lock. Finucane has left the club. There is a vacancy there. I think that may mean that his minutes increase. And I think that he only needs a minimum of a 6-minute increase. And that will bump his average up to 81 based on his current PPM. And if he were to become a 70-minute plus hooker, you're looking at 87.5 as his projected average, which is unreal, incredible.
Yeah, he was playing monster minutes at the Tigers when he sort of burst onto the scene, and his attack was not as polished as what it is now. Harry Grant, look, yeah, his minutes were down last year, had those sort of recurring little niggling injuries, but as you said, with Brandon Smith, I think Brandon Smith will be rotated through the 13 a lot heavier this year. Obviously, at the moment, we've got Tui Kamikamica stood down. We don't know what the future of him is going to look like. We've also got the Nelson Asfa Solomona situation. It's hard to comment on that right now. But yeah, look, we take it for what it is at the moment. Look, we'll touch on the Melbourne preview closer to the start date, but I think Brandon Smith is probably the starting 13 with Grant as the 9, and I back Grant's fitness over Smith's. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing upwards of close to 70, which would take him to around an 80 average. And I remember posting that on socials probably a month ago, and a lot of people were undecided on Grant and where he would sit. As I said, if he was playing round 1, he should be owned by close to 35-40% of teams, in my opinion. But the fact that he is out for round 1 makes it a little bit trickier, and you're going to have to navigate that as at the moment. I'm taking the punt on him in round 1, but yeah, no issues with me with him ranking as the 1 hooker, mate.
No, absolutely not. Moving on to number 2, and there might be debate about this, but I have Rhys Robson as the number 2 hooker. Now, his average last season was 68. That is the second best or equal second best for this position. His base is really good. So he's got a 45 base, which is 8 higher than Grant. His attack, obviously, he's not the attacking player that Harry Grant is. So his attack came in at 26 per week. His minutes were very solid at 68 minutes per week, and I don't really see that that's going to change, even if he is leaving the club. Now, his 60-60 was only at 53%, so his consistency is not as good. Pre-injury, 7 of his 8 scores, though, were above that 60 mark, and 7 of those 8 games were at 80 minutes. So did his injury end up affecting his season so that when he came back, reduced minutes, less consistency? What I'm saying is if Marnie's good to go for this season, full health, there is the potential for higher minutes, which would knock that average up. If he is playing 80, got a projected average at 72.5, which is elite.
I'm not sure if he plays 80. They've got the signing of Mitch Rain. I don't think they've signed Mitch Rain to sit on his hands and do nothing. I would expect him to rotate through a potential 14. The concern, I've got a couple of concerns with Rhys Robson. I don't want him to end up like a Gareth Widdop with these shoulders, having continual issues with them. I also think 68 is sort of his peak. I spoke about this to you yesterday off mic. He had 13 try assists in, I think, 17 games. So a very, very high attack output when it comes to that. And I rate Rhys Robson very highly. I probably have him as a better natural hooker than Brandon Smith. I think Brandon Smith's a better player, but I have Marnie as the better hooker. I just worry that he's very... what's the way to put it?
Fragile.
No, not fragile. Safe. He's very, very safe. Like, I don't think he'll ever let you down. I just don't think he has that monster ceiling that other guys in this list that we're going to cover do. And as I said, like, I think we saw the best of his attacking output last year with those 13 assists in 17 games. I don't know how much higher he can go, but in saying that, I don't think he's going to disappoint you either. He's currently priced at $594K. I think he's worth every bit of that. I don't see the average dropping off a cliff. But we obviously have other guys here. I know that you are starting with Rhys Robson, and I think it's okay to say that if Harry Grant was fit round 1, you'd be starting with Grant over Money.
Oh, absolutely. If I can find the, I think it's 50K that I need, I will start with Grant over Marnie. It's just squad balance at the moment. I found it easier to put Marnie there, and Marnie's also got an elite draw to start. So I'm kind of hoping that junk that you spoke of that's probably not viable to continue as it did last year. As long as it continues for the first 6 to 8 weeks, I'd be quite happy, and then I'll move him on to Harry Grant.
Yeah, the very impressive thing is the 45 base, and that is pure base. That is not base power or anything. That is strictly what the work he gets through. So you've got a really good floor there, and if you can find even 70% of the attacking output that he had last year, he's going to be a fine pickup, and he'll be a fine hold until Harry Grant comes back in round 2, or if you want to hold Marnie until that draw dries up and you pick up Grant then go for it. But yeah, look, I'm not against Rhys Robson. I'm just obviously nowhere near as high on him as I am with Harry Grant. Mate, number 3, I'm very cold on. If he is playing 13, as we discussed on, like, he statistically averages far less. The beauty of Brandon Smith's game is him 2 meters out from the line. That's where he's going to generate a lot of points, and that's where he's going to make owners feel happy. But if he's playing through 13, he does not average anywhere near as enough to warrant the nearly 600K price tag for mine. We're picking him up. We're picking him up based on the output that he had a hooker.
Yeah, absolutely. So going off what you said in relation to his attack numbers are 34, which is it's second only to Harry Grant, basically. And it's a good, probably 10 points ahead of the next best person that we'll discuss. So his attack is a big part of his game. His base is only 38. Now, that's not terrible, but all the other hookers have a 40 plus base. So I think there's probably better options. I might need to do some homework for the viewers and compare all his numbers when he's played 13 compared to 9, because I think it's probably going to be the case that he does play lock this season. Now he's leaving the club. I don't think that'll affect his minutes early in the season. I think it could affect it at the later end of the season where he becomes more of an impact player like he's played in seasons past. He also scored 11 tries last season, which is probably an unrealistic number for him to achieve year in, year out. So without that junk, you're going to see a drop in average. His average last season was 68, which is pretty much on the mark for the top 5 players that we're going to discuss today.
Now, you mentioned you want to do some homework. I had a quick look while you were talking. So last year you played 2 games starting at 13, 62 and 64, which is good. But in 2020, he played a lot of games at prop, a couple of games at 9, a couple of games off the bench, and it was just very fluctuating. And I do worry that that's what's going to happen this year. I don't think he's going to be shut out completely like some are talking about. I think Melbourne will compete, and they're going to play their best 13. I think Brandon Smith is a part of that best 13. It's just a lot of money to be paying for some unknowns, like when it comes to what his role is going to be, because I don't think he's displacing Harry Grant at 9. Both fully fit, because we know that Grant was carrying injuries last year, and that's probably why Brandon Smith peaked him there a little bit. But I just worry that what his rotation is going to be like when it comes to the season. It's like I said, nearly 600K when you can just spend that on Grant. You know what I mean? There's lots of options across both. Obviously, he's dual second row. There's options across both positions that you could take over him. He misses that first week. He doesn't have the attacking upside of Harry Grant. So I feel that he's a wait and see how he goes, see how Melbourne utilise him this season, and then grab him at that time. Now, Damien Cook, it's one of those talking points that we always think he's going to come back to his best. I'm just going to pull up his sort of stats over the last couple of years because they have been sort of dropping dramatically, and people put that down to Wayne Bennett. But 2018 was the year with Seabold, I'm pretty sure from memory. 79 points a game. First year with Bennett in 19, 76 points a game, to a 3-point drop-off there. 2020, 70 points a game, to a 6-point drop-off there. And then last year averaged 66. So basically in the last 4 years, he's dropped off 13 points a game. Look, I understand that Bennett probably killed the running game a little bit, but Cookie is, I think, 31, I want to say, without doing any research. Yeah. But like Father Time is undefeated. And I just worry that that's what we're seeing here now. And I worry that he's developing more into a playmaker rather than that explosive runner that we saw when he was 26, 27. It's a good price to look at him at 575 with what we know we can do. And it's a double-edged sword with no A-Ray. So, like, does Cook explode because of no Reynolds, or does he sort of shell up a little bit? We know that the connection with him and Cameron Murray is what is lethal. I'm just not sold on him come next year.
I'm not sure. Everyone says that Bennett killed Cook. I'm not sure if that was necessarily the case. I looked at his base for the last 4 years, and it's extremely consistent. It was 51, 47, 50, 45. So basically 45 to 50 per game for the last 4 seasons. That's brilliant. There's no problems there whatsoever. His attack was the interesting one. So going back to the seasons you stated, so it was 31 in that first season. It was 31 again the following season, and I believe that was under Bennett. Then it drops off. It goes down to 17 and to 23. Now, I think that might actually be because of Latrell Mitchell.
Because they have another option now to use?
Yeah, Mitchell and Cody, whilst they've been playing together, have been so destructive on that left edge. I think that might actually be the reason. I'd have to really do some homework and deep dive to work this out. But he only scored 2 tries last season, which for him is a dramatic drop-off. And just looking at it, it's odd that over the last 2 seasons, his attacking stats almost halved compared to the seasons prior because his base is completely consistent. So he's still working out of the ruck. So maybe he's passing before the line, and we did see that a little bit under Bennett, but he's still got the work rate there to have a decent floor. But where are the attacking stats gone for a guy that was shredding it? What was it, 2018? He had that 79 average you spoke of.
Yeah, so 2018 was the last year under Seabold, and yeah, he brained it. It is interesting to note what you've said there when it comes to the emergence of Latrell Mitchell, because it did feel like when their backs against the wall, it's like, all right, Cookie, just pull us out of the depths, like give us something. Whereas now it does feel like when there's nothing happening, it's just give the ball to Cody and have Latrell sit outside him and see what they can do, because they're both very destructive. And yeah, I mean, it's also, I think it comes down to a lot with Cam Murray as well. Like, Cam Murray is a very good SuperCoach player. It's just a case of, is he going to link up with Cook through the middle there as well? With no Adam Reynolds, that could be the number 2 play, especially with a quick play the ball as the game speeds up. But we've been saying this now for 3 years. Like, the game is getting quicker and quicker, and Cookie should be the big winner of that. But as I said, like, Father Time's undefeated, and he definitely has a higher ceiling. Like, if you're comparing him to someone like a Reid Marnie, Marnie's 20k more. Marnie is obviously the safer pick, but like, we know Cook's got that higher ceiling. I just worry that he'll be 31, 32 next year. Like, it's a physical position hooker, and I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have. But they've got Pete Marmazoulias there, and they've also signed Havili from the Raiders, who can fill through 9. I'm not very confident that he plays 80, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he's got the best minutes of anyone. So his minutes was 79. Sorry, not 79, 78. And basically that's just him getting an early rest 1 or 2 games of the season. Every other game was 80 minutes. A little fun fact to ponder is that he averaged 84 points over the last 6 rounds of the season, and Latrell missed quite a few of those games. So I might just leave that there. I don't know if I went through his numbers. So his base was 45. That's a good floor. His attack is 23, which dipped heavily. His average last season was 66 at 575k. So he's going to be an interesting one. I don't know which way to go on it. If he had a better draw, I think I would consider it. He was in the very first side I picked Cook because I'm expecting a little bit of a resurgence, but that draw shut it out a little bit for me.
Yeah, look, the first 4 rounds, they've got the Broncos away, which on paper, yeah, looks like a pretty juicy game, but it's the Broncos at Suncorp with all these new signings, and, you know, like, it could be anything. Round 2, they've got Melbourne away. Melbourne are going to have Smith, Munster, Grant back. Like, it's going to be that lethal Melbourne side that we know of. Round 3 is the Roosters at home, Sydney Derby. Like, that's going to be a bloodbath. And round 4, they play the Panthers away. Obviously, the reigning premiers. So, yeah, it's not a great start for South under a new coach with no 7. Like, it's gonna be tough. And look, if you said to me, I'm taking a punt on Cook, just know what you're getting yourself into. Like, there could be another season in 2022 where he drops off again by another 3 or 4 points, which would take him down to 61, 62, which is not great territory. But like I said, we know the ceiling that we have with Cook, and you said he came home last year very, very well with a great average, and no Latrell, and Latrell's going to miss the first 2 rounds, I think, from memory. Yeah. So there is a world where we do take Damien Cook. I don't hate that, but it is concerning that the attack has dropped off dramatically. Like you said, last 4 years, 31, 31, 17, 23, whereas the base has stayed a lot
consistent.
It's consistent, but it also is dropping as well, like 51, 47, 50, 45. So like that is on the decline as well. And if you're taking Cook, just know that these numbers are declining, and you're just picking him hoping for a resurgence under a new coach.
The base dropping can be attributed to South belting so many teams last year, though, and I don't think they're going to do that as often this year. So the base doesn't bother me. I feel that it's pretty consistent. If there's a couple of points drop off, you can understand that. It's really that attack. The attack's gone down the toilet, and that's the concerning piece.
Yeah. So all those in mind, I'm saying no to Cook and then watch him average 82 this season, and I look like a dickhead. Another man that I'm not actually overly keen on, but I've managed to put him in the side because you don't shut up about him. He's in the side now based off peer pressure, and I'm putting this down to you, mate. Take it away.
Oh, Cameron McInnes, you beautiful man. Now, just for the listeners, yes, he's going to play lock this season, but given that second row is a deep position and that podcast will probably take us a while to record, I've put him in as the hookers because he's available there. So the numbers here obviously didn't play last season. I've had to use 2020 data to give the kind of the numbers that I've given for the others. So on that season for games played, there was an average of 76. His base was 66, which is absolutely incredible. His attack is non-existent. It's only 10 points. So basically you're just looking at a tackle bot. His minutes were 79. Now, probably unrealistic that he's going to play those type of minutes. So I'll break that down a little bit in a moment. His 60-60 for that year was 83%. So you pretty much know what you're getting. You're getting at least 60 a week. He's actually priced at a 61 average. So as long as he is the player that he was, I feel that he's an extremely safe option this year. And I'll take safe options to the bank. So he had one try in 2020. That was a poor Dragons side. I guess that's to be expected. Now, at minimum of 60 minutes, the projective average is 59 based on the scoring settings that we've got at the moment. At 65 minutes, it's 63. And at 67 game, hold on, what did I write here? 8 games at lock in that 2020 season, he averaged 73.
Yeah, like the stats are phenomenal, but obviously there's a lot of asterisks next to it. Now I copped a lot.
Yeah,
I copped a lot of negative feedback, which is fine. I'm happy to cop that about him playing lock, getting more hit ups, more tackles, etc. I don't think that's the case. I think his tackles will stay very similar. I think his hit ups may increase ever so slightly, but I just worry that they're going to use him in that Victor Radley mold, like take it to the line, bombing at the back. Take it to the line, bombing at the back. His workload is fantastic. I am worried about the ACL, and people can say that he's had the whole year, but he hasn't played footy in close to 19 months come round one. Like that is hard to argue. In saying that, he's in my team because he is priced at 61 average. I don't think he goes lower than 61, but I just worry about the minutes that he's playing. I mean, the Sharks have a loaded forward pack, and I don't think they want to bust McInnes up. They've got Franklin Pele, they've got Braden Hamlin-Ueli, they have Tolman, they have Rudolph, they have Finucane, and that's just off the top of my head without really looking too hard. Jack Williams is another one. So like they have a lot of middlemen, and I think McInnes offers them something different because he is more mobile. But the first 5 rounds, I'm just worried that Fitzgibbon's like, all right, let's just play you for 45, 50 minutes, ease you back into it, and go from there. Like that is the biggest concern for me. It's not really the output. I expect a drop in production because playing 13, you're not going to have the attacking chances, aka look at Brandon Smith. Basically, you can use the same points that we used on Brandon Smith for Cameron McInnes. For me, it is the minutes that I'm worried about, and it's so hard to say. Like, if he plays, obviously the trials are going to happen. They're going to play 3 games of full of reserve graders, and they'll play 1 game like with their first team. If he plays like 55 minutes, I am all in on him. If he plays anything less, it is hard. The beauty is that he is hooker. Do we talk about him as much as we are if he was just 2RF? That's the question that I want to put.
I'd probably still consider it. I'd have to. So what are we looking at?
Basically, we're paying $5.35
so we got him
for a strict 2RF that's priced at a 61 average.
So mid-5s for, say, a 60 average.
When you can get someone like a Tamalolo for like $4.90, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, I won't go into details, but Ryan Madison's at 570 and averaged 64 last season. So for me, the answer is yes. Yeah. At 535, I'm still picking McInnes at second row.
I wasn't sure if we were just blinded by that hooker status, even though it is a huge.
It's a benefit. Look, we don't know what the Sharks are going to do, and everything you said is spot on. I think the big issue is Turdy Rudolph because he played really, really well in that position last year, and they did re-sign him. So I believe that McInnes is going to be played like Brendan Smith was last year. I think he's going to spend time at both hooker and lock, and I'm okay with that. Minutes, I don't know if trials are going to give us what we want in terms of minutes, because I don't think they're going to play him more than they have to in those trials. I think he'll play a bit of time over each of them. And then we'll start to see a trend maybe 3 or 4 rounds in of what his actual minutes will be. I'm happy to persevere and just stick with it. But I think people need to kind of temper their expectations early. He's probably not going to go out and average 65, 70 from week 1. But as long as he does it after a month or 5 weeks, and I can hold him then for the season, I'm happy with that, because it's a long game as much as it is a short game, this SuperCoach.
That's the thing that is so different with McInnes and Smith. Like, the thing with Smith is he needs those 11 tries in 21 games to be, in quotation marks, relevant. Whereas McInnes will just churn through the work, whether he's at 9 or 13. If he was playing 9, I'd be all over him. I'd much prefer him at 9 than I would at 13. But the thing, like, and you mentioned Rudolph, like, Toby Rudolph is a very good footballer. Like, he is, a lot of teams will love to have him, but he's very meat and potatoes, isn't he? He doesn't really offer a whole lot in attack. He's going to get you 35 tackles. He's going to give you 15 hit-ups, and you'll never really see a game below 7 out of 10 for him. It's just, I think, with the re-signing of Blake Braley and the signing of Finucane, I think you've got a really good foundation there for your sort of 8, 9, 10. And then McInnes will play 13. It's just a case of what minutes he's going to get. You're right, he is a season-long keeper, because I don't think he's playing Origin, regardless of the form that he's in. It's going to be very hard to break into that Origin side, considering how well they played last year. And you've still got guys like Angus Crichton, Ryan Madison, Tarek Sims, that all sort of floated in and out of the setup last year, who are probably ahead of McInnes in the pecking order. So 535 is probably where I'm sitting on him. If he was 570, I'd probably skip it, but 535 is right on the cusp there of the hookers, and I guess that shows you just how thin this position is, because we've got these top 5. One of them is a slam dunk love for me. Marnie is a safe pick. He's not going to disappoint you. Smith, I'm very cold on. Cook, I'm very cold on. And McInnes, I'm sort of indifferent on. So it shows you how top heavy this is, and that's the reason why I've gone with Harry Grant despite missing round 1.
Yeah. So that's probably the gun chapter of hooker, and that shows how thin it is that, you know, as you said, 2 of them are actually second rowers basically, and the other 3 kind of speak for themselves. So that moves us into the mids. Jaden Braley is the first name on the list. Now, obviously, Jaden Braley was the hot ticket to start last season, started like a house on fire. As soon as a few bodies came back, his attack kind of died in the arse a little bit, and he basically went down a cliff in the process. So last year, his average was 59. His base is 48. His base is very solid, so he's definitely a worker in the middle. Doesn't have much attack. His average attack was 9, and I think you'll find that 90% of that came in the first 10 weeks. His minutes are 78. So he's one of the few hookers in the comp that basically is an 80-minute hooker. 40% of the time he went over 60, and he's priced at 518. So for me, I pay the extra 17K, and I go McInnes. I think he needs attack to be relevant, and I don't have much else on him. He's not someone that I'm looking at this year at all. He's at an awkward price, and I'm just simply not interested.
The thing with him last year was I think he was 279K from memory when he started the season, and I've got a couple of stats here just in front of me, mate. Like, I don't have the breakdown of base and attack and evade, but whatever. But rounds 1 to 10, the bloke averaged 74.2 in the first 10 rounds. He did not have a score below 57. So when we're talking about his 60-60 and it being 41%, that is all down to rounds 1 to 10, because rounds 11 to 20, he averaged 45.8. That is just under a 30-point drop-off in the back end of the year. And as I said, in rounds 1 to 10, he did not score below 57. In rounds 11 to 20, he did not score above 58. So that 60-60 club, where it's sitting at 41%, rounds 11 to 20 did not affect that whatsoever. So his 41% has literally come from the first 10 rounds. I don't have the stats in front of me, but if his lowest score was a 58, I would expect that 9 out of the 10 scores were above 60. And it just shows you how crucial the attack was for him. He's a very safe player when it comes to footy. Like, his base is, 48? So that is probably the second highest base on this list behind McInnes, and McInnes is a bit skewed because of playing in, I guess, before the rule changes. So Braley had the highest base of this lot, but therefore had sort of the lowest attack. And you watch some of the Knights highlights, he was always just there. Like when there was a loose ball, he would just be there. I remember a couple of times where some kicks went up, Ponga chased it down, or like one of the tall centers chased it down, batted it back, and he was just there to fall on it. And I remember he got a couple of try assists close to the line that were a little bit touch and go. Josh King helped him out massively. The Saifidi boys at the start of the year, they were in really good try scoring form, and when your props are scoring tries, it's mostly down to your hooker putting them over, and that sort of dried up. The Knights didn't finish well at the end of the year. Like I remember they had one of the best draws. A lot of people were talking all their assets up, myself included. I mean, like I was very keen on Bradman Best. I was keen on Ponga to come home, and the Knights just didn't fire. And yeah, Braley suffered from that because the attack just wasn't there. And I don't know if it's a positive that Mitchell Pearce has left, like the dominant half, whether he's going to be doing more ball playing, but he's just same with Toby Rudolph, just a very meat and potatoes footballer, which nothing against that. A lot of teams need that. But for SuperCoach, yeah, if he was like 400, I'd be tempted to have him as my secondary hooker. But the fact he's 5'18", which is 20k less than Cam McInnes, is an absolute no-go for me. Another man that we're talking a lot about players leaving clubs or switching clubs, Api Coruscant, off to the Tigers. A guy that I think a lot of people had high hopes for from SuperCoach. I remember a couple of years ago, he had a pretty good season and we thought that'd kick on. But yeah, an average of 55 last year, potentially on the way out. They've got Mitch Kenny there. Like I still think Coruscant plays a large chunk of the minutes, but yeah, at 5, or so what is he, 479, it's hard to really get behind any of these mid-ranges apart from, I guess, the next man that we'll talk about. But Api Coruscant, though, like it's grim.
Yeah, he's also leaving the club to go to the West Tigers. So it's another one of these ones where there could be succession planning that comes into play. He doesn't have the attacking upside that he had. He certainly had that in 2020 when he started like a house on fire. It seemed to drop off a lot last year. You'll probably see Mitch Kenny, become more relevant this season. I know Mitch Kenny's got a lot of fans on the internet, so I'm sure that'll please a few Panthers fans. He's just not for me this season. Obviously, he's always had that injury risk as well. His 60-60 was only 36%, which is poor. And his base is 44, which is just okay. So, yeah, he's not someone that's hugely on my radar. Just going back to Jaden Braley for a sec, it looks like Jake Clifford might have had a big part in Braley's downfall. I was just having a look whilst you were talking, and
Jake Clifford had a big part in a lot of people's downfall. I think, like not in the NRL, but like just in SuperCoach. Yeah, like I feel like he just took a lot of touches away from that left hand side of the field. So that's one to watch.
Yep. So yeah, I had a quick look because I was like, I couldn't remember. I remember there was a reason I couldn't start with Braley last year, and I think it was because I thought as soon as Ponga came back, it would take away from his attacking upside. And that did happen to a degree, but he still played okay for a few weeks. And then Clifford joined the club and just killed the club, basically. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch back on that. And Coruscant's a hard no from me.
Yeah, look, for the people listening, I'm sure they can hear the enthusiasm in our voices has probably dropped a little bit when it comes to these mid-range guys. It's tough. And the one that I'm most excited about is Rhys Robson out of this list, because I feel like he has the highest ceiling out of the three of these mid-ranges that we've chosen from. Like his average when he plays 80 is fantastic. But the problem is you've got Ruben Cotter, you've got Jake Granville sort of waiting in the wings. And for 474k, not someone that I can start with straight away. But if we can see those minutes are up there, like he is a very creative 9. I like him a lot. I think he is a good worker. You can see that from the 42 base. And he possesses some good attacking upside when he gets the chance. But the problem is there is a lot in the wings. And look, if Jason Taumalolo was named at prop, it'd put me a lot higher on Rhys Robson, because you would think have Ruben Cotter at 13, and Jake Granville is Jake Granville. So not a whole lot more to say there on my end, mate.
Look, I've got a little bit to say. I'm quite positive Taumalolo does play prop this year, and I think Ruben Cotter will be the 13. Ruben Cotter, I can't remember the numbers, but I think he played roughly the last 10 to 12 games of the season at starting lock. Now, Robson, I'll give you the stats, but you need to understand these numbers are skewed somewhat because his minutes weren't always consistent. They were more consistent at the back half of the season. So his average was 54 last season. His base is 42. His attack was 14. So he doesn't have a huge attacking upside at the moment. His minutes were 63 average, which isn't too bad, but he actually did play quite a few games of 80 minutes at the back end of the season. I think it was over the last 10 rounds. So for his 18-minute games, he actually averages over 60. I think his average was 61.3 or something like that. And in the final round, I think they actually got thumped in the final round. He only scored 37 in that 80 minutes. So that 60-plus average I mentioned includes that 37. I haven't removed it. So there is a potential there that he could become one of those guys that could be a very handy plug if you can't afford these top guys, or even if you were looking for someone else to play, if we don't get Booth or Will Smith or someone cheap in the hooker position, and you wanted to go gun and maybe semi-gun, Robson could be a real smoky option to plug out a 60 average this season. So I don't mind it at all. I hadn't considered the Lolo point that you mentioned, Josh, but that's a real good figure. Real good point that you made. Tamalolo's numbers at prop are actually quite good when it comes to his base. I'll go through that on the second row pod later this week. But if he's at prop and he's running off Robson could get an increase in attacking junk. So I'm quite high on the pod move of Robson.
So Robson has a PPM of 0.86. So him at 65 minutes is about where he sits. I think it's about 55 average if I can do the math off the top of my head. And look, he's priced at 54, so not a whole lot of value there, but 65 minutes would have to be the minimum that he gets for me to be interested, just based on historical PPMs. But yeah, if he gets decent minutes and Cotter's at 13 and Lolo's at prop, and Robson could be, a really good plug and play for 474k. Not someone that I'm excited to jump off this call with and put in my team. But if we see more from him during the trials, I'm definitely interested. That's going to round out the top 5 guns, the top 3 sort of mid-ranges. I've got probably 5 cheapies that we can brush on quickly. These are more of sort of handcuffs. For you guys that don't know the term handcuff, it's generally the backup of the main guy we've got. And if there's an injury pre-season or if there's a minute spike, then these guys will definitely move into consideration. Number 1, Aaron Booth. We're going to have to see him start to be viable. It'll be between him and the next man, Aaron Clark, who is priced at 300k. So whoever gets that starting job will be probably there for me, even though both of them don't excite me a bunch. Like Aaron Clark at 300k, if he can pump out 50 minutes, 55 minutes, and if Booth, I don't know, I haven't looked at the top 30 teams recently, but I'm under the belief that Booth still hasn't been promoted.
Not at the current time, no.
So Aaron Clark could be there for 300k. I don't hate it. Mitch Rain has left, so you'd think that would see him get some decent minutes. There's also Tanner Boyd to compete with as well. So a lot to consider, but then again, Ash Taylor's left, so maybe Tanner Boyd slots into sort of the half backup role rather than hooker. So Aaron Clark is someone to keep an eye on. Billy Walters at 296k. He is available at 5'8" /hooker. Now, there's been some little whispers that he's training at 6 with Adam Reynolds. I don't know how much to believe in that on the 3rd of January. But, yeah, like if Billy Walters gets to 6 at 296k, he could, I guess, be a lot of people's cheap plugs.
Yeah, I quite like Walters. At the moment, in my team, I'm thinking that it'll either be him or Hetherington that ends up being my backup hooker. Hetherington we'll discuss on the 2RF pod. Billy Walters is a talented player and his dad should get a lot out of him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he does get the 6. I would have thought Albert Kelly earned it last year.
Or even bloody Tyson Gamble. Like Tyson Gamble played with like a lot of heart. And that's what the thing that the Broncos need is blokes that play for the badge. And I think, Albert Kelly played very well, and Gamble both played very well. So it is weird to hear that the whispers that Walters is playing 6.
Yeah, but I guess he's younger as well, and maybe they're starting to look towards the future. They've lost a lot of guys because they've overlooked the future over the past few years, and maybe they've just said, "Look, this is the one that we want." We lost Walker, We lost Walsh. We lost countless others. Maybe this is part of their thinking
And
future planning.
The fact they've got like a competent 7 now, like someone that can sort of help a young rookie half, or not rookie, but like a young half get around. As a Tigers fan, man, I was really disappointed that we lost Walters, but I understand why he went. But yeah, I really rate him as a footballer, and I think with Adam Reynolds there, could give him a little bit more. Like, obviously, no disrespect to Brodie Croft, but he's not someone to lead your side. And there was a reason that I think the Storm did let him go, and we end up seeing that. So, like, no, I still think there's a player there at some stage. But if Walters plays 6 with a competent half next to him, yeah, I could really get behind him at 296 just to play hooker for 5 rounds in my side.
Yeah, and I don't think their draw's too bad from memory either, so I don't mind it at all.
Now, Chris Randall, the only way that Chris Randall becomes relevant is if Braley goes down. You would think he is next in line, especially with Connor Watson exiting the building. Chris Randall made 71 tackles on debut, I think, from memory, and he's very, very boring for SuperCoach with like 0 attack, but the bloke will churn through work. So if Braley goes down during the preseason, then you would think Randall's stocks skyrocket.
Oh, absolutely. But that would be pending an injury. So I haven't looked too much into him at the moment, but if he had 71 tackles on debut, he's definitely a worker, which is, I've got no issue with hookers being workers.
And the last play we'll discuss in this pod, mate, the one that a lot of people are here for, Jake Granville, fullback / hooker, 239K. Yep, I see you shaking your head.
It's a hard pass from me.
But yeah,
even when Granville was relevant, he wasn't relevant for SuperCoach. Really, I think he's had a few good games here and there, but never been consistent. And he's certainly not plugging one of my fullback spots.
I might actually jump off this call after I do this and put Walters in for Booth, because I don't know, I can get behind Walters. I've got the cash there. The problem with picking Green is I need someone for round 1. I can't just fill the spot. I need someone to play round 1 unless I just take an AE straight away.
Or switch Cameron McInnes up beside him.
McInnes up, yeah, and that'd be good if Hetherington gets a start, because then you can just put Hetherington at 2RF on the bench and you slot
That's my setup.
McInnes up. Mate, that is going to round off our first pod of 2021. So 22. As I said, we're going to do 3 of these a week up until the end of February. So strap yourselves in. 40 minutes to an hour. The 2RF one might be a little bit longer because there is a plethora to talk about. But hooker, mate, it's not good this year, is it?
No, I think most people are going to have pretty much the same type of recipe at that position. And, you know, there's only 2 slots. It's a bit like fullback. So, yeah, Harry Grant, Reid Marnie, Damien Cook. I think you'll see those names a lot in that position. And it'll probably be plugged with either a cheapie or a Cam McInnes, I think.
Bring back 2019 when we had Cameron Smith at 600K and we had Harry Grant at about 200. That was the ideal setup. That was the peak of SuperCoach for me. Mate, I very much appreciate you coming on. I very much appreciate you putting together these stats. You've done the stats for our Front Row pod and our 2RF pod as well. As I said, make sure you got notifications on. You guys on YouTube that are still watching, please subscribe, like as well. We got a lot of views on the Team Reveal podcast. I think we got over 1,500, which is huge for a channel that has 100 subscribers. So that's the goal for 2021 is to plug the YouTube more, because we've got a lot of plans with the YouTube coming up. And if you want to be a part of this show, YouTube is where we need to be subscribed to. So that's my little desperate plug to get people over there. As I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the next 8 weeks, Brew and I will be breaking down a lot of players that we'll be discussing, mate. I'm very, very excited. And as I said, mate, thanks very much for putting together all the stats for me.
No problem at all. I love doing it. Just for the listeners, if there is anything that maybe I've missed that you would like to know more of, please let me know. I've pretty much done this based on the things that I look at when I, do my preseason research. So if there is any particular numbers that you'd like to know from players, give us a shout out on Twitter, hit up Josh on Insta, or reach out on Facebook. Let us know what it is that you want to know, and I'll look into it for you.
I did put out a post on Insta, mate, asking for people and their like people that we want broken down. And I got a list of about 70 names. So there's we discussed a few today, but as I said, over the next 8 weeks or so, we'll be discussing a whole lot more. I'm very, very, very excited. As always, mate, what do we say? Ciao for now.
Ciao for now, guys. See you
Cheers.
next time.
Bye.